Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 38 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Today we're going to be talking about being judgmental, how it's not good for you, and actually the pros and cons about it. We will talk about that. But by the end of this video, I hope that you understand that what you think is not always the case. And that could be completely changing your life for better or for worse. Let's figure it out together in this episode. So let's jump right into it.
Well, actually, before we do that, two things.
Mm-hmm.
First thing is, sorry about the upload being delayed for this week, but we were something happened with the video, and it was
We
not
had technical difficulties.
There was a lot of technical difficulties, so apologies on that front. Second thing is, there was one story I wanted to get into that I didn't get to talk about last time because I forgot about it. But it was on the topic of perfection, how sometimes we wait for things to be perfect to do it, right?
Fire away.
And it was a story that Alex Hormozi told when he was doing his podcast with Chris Williamson. And the story was about a pottery class, or two pottery classes, right? One pottery class was tasked with making one perfect pot. Like during the whole term, you could only make one pot. And it had to be perfect. That was it. Your entire grade was based on that. The second class, their grade was based on how many pots can you make. So it was quantity versus quality, okay? But what they found was that at the end of the term, almost all of the pots made in the class where it was about quantity were better than almost all of the pots that were made by the quality class.
Really?
Yeah. So between the two classes, the only difference is one was made, only make one. The other was make as many as you can. One favored making perfection. The other just favored making something. And the ones that were making something actually did better, which I found to be pretty crazy. I thought it was really cool. And I think if you reflect on what we said in the last episode, you could definitely apply that to your life in the fact that it doesn't need to be perfect. It's just got to get done. But moving on, judgment. I'm going to flip the script and I'm going to ask you, what do you think of judgment?
It's interesting because I think that a lot of topics that we talk about can be taken in many different directions, right? Realistically, all of life is subjective, but I think that when you're giving advice, it's important to clarify when it should be applied and when it shouldn't be, right? So judgment, there's two things about it. There are cases where it's important and there are cases where it's not important, which is exactly why I want to start this video off with the pros and the cons of judgment, because I think there are both two sides to it. Being judgmental is not a bad thing. I'd say inherently a bad thing. The concept of judgment in and of itself is simply making an evaluation based on something.
Yeah.
Or an assumption, I'd say, based on some set of data. The question is, how robust is that set of data that you have?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Right?
Yeah.
So, do you have a point?
Well, no, I guess my point would have been that when I think about judgment, the only time where I believe it to be truly negative is in the space of people. Judging people, to me, I think is negative in every aspect.
Interesting. Okay, then I definitely want to get into that discussion with you because I don't think that's the case.
All right, well,
I think there's pros and cons to it, regardless of who it is. So I'll start with the pros because I think that we can both resonate.
Pros
more.
as in pros to not being judgmental?
No, pros to actually judging people.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start with that because I feel like that might be a little bit more, controversial in terms of people's understanding of being judgmental. But the way I see it is judgment of character is necessary for life. Being able to discern who someone is important. Now, the problem is that you can't really be 100% sure about it, but it is important to make judgments about people's character. For example, if you're hiring for a job, let's say you're an employer, you need to look at people's resumes. You need to call previous employers, ask them, hey, what kind of person was he or she when they applied for this job, right? You need to do your research about them to understand them. And that is also making a judgment. Or if you are reviewing college applications, looking at who actually fits with the university, who deserves to get in and do the things that they are really trying to do. And another example is with your friends. It's hard to say, but when you are picking the people to be around, realistically, we do pick and choose, right? There are people you don't resonate with, there are people you resonate with. But if you're not careful with the people you surround yourself with, you could end up becoming someone you don't want to be, simply because the people closest to you follow a different path than you. And since you didn't judge their character, you overlooked certain flaws. And by doing so, you put yourself in a position where now you're friends with people you don't necessarily want to be friends with.
My view on it, well, okay, I can agree with the, job interview and stuff like that, where you need to see if somebody's a good fit. But when it comes to personal dealings, right? Like I would say like emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, not in a concrete sense, in a more abstract sense. So concrete is like money. I have to evaluate who I'm going into business with or who I'm going to hire for my company. That I can agree on judgment. But when it comes to personal things, I don't think, I'd say what really gives you the right to judge other people and to believe that this person is good or this person's bad. And I found myself thinking about this because, especially in today's world, I think that we preach judgment to people. And I think that you can be friends with anybody. This is something that I've really come to realize as I spent more time in university, is that there is a lot of different people there. It's very different high school. Like all of you in high school, university is a completely different ballgame. Like it is not at all what you'd expect. Because first off, yeah, everything is kind of more chill and harsh at the same time. But the one thing I love about university is that it's diverse. There's a ton of different people that you're going to meet in university. And if you're willing to keep an open mind, you'll meet people that you wouldn't necessarily find yourself associating with. Like for me, I met somebody and I can tell that we have very different views on a lot of things, but I can still hold a conversation with them and consider them a friend because it didn't really matter to me. Because in the end, my judgment of that person's character, it doesn't really affect who they are. Who I think somebody is isn't who they are. And I'm like, I'm going to take that chance. Because in reality, if you're set in who you are, the effects of other people are very diminished. Like for me, I find that since I've gone through a time of really exploring who I am, who do I want to be, I feel like I've found myself pretty far. And no matter who's around me, that doesn't affect me as much, you know?
Okay, well, here's my counter argument to that. Just because on a superficial level that person can't hurt you based on that, I think that it is still important to judge people's characters, because if you let someone into your life who is not a good person, but you decided to give them the benefit of the doubt, regardless of certain facts that you knew about them, it could end badly for you and they could end up taking advantage of you.
Like how?
For example, let's say you're getting into business with someone.
Okay,
right?
but I already agreed with that.
Did you?
Yeah, I said like when it comes to monetary or concrete things, I agree. But like, for example, what people say is like when it comes to getting in like friends or like a relationship, you need to really judge that person. Okay, you know what? I really wanted to save this for another episode, but this quote like blew my mind. Okay, this blew my mind. And the quote, like I really wanted to save this for another episode, but I feel like I have to say it here, was that, you know, a lot of people deal with heartbreak nowadays. And the quote that I read was, love isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person. All this time we spend, you know, worrying about these relationships we've been in and other people being bad when they end, you know, people hurt themselves over the decisions of other people. But first off, when you get into a relationship, if it doesn't work out, there's two things. One is you can learn from it or you can hurt over it. It's just like the past, right? Because I'm willing to bet that there's no perfect person in a relationship. There's always a place to find a place you can improve. But it's a way of looking at it and smiling and being like, you know what? I had something good. I messed up maybe, but I'm going to do better next time, right? So it's all about perspective. Because if you allow other people to influence your perspective of yourself, then no doubt you need to be super careful with who you let in your life. But the reason that we talk about this is that there's two steps to it. First step is to figure yourself out and then think about other people. Because it's as Sun Tzu said, once that if there is no enemy within, then the enemy outside can do us no harm. Actually, I don't think Sun Tzu said that, now that I think about it.
Really? That definitely sounds like something.
It sounds like something you would say, but I think it's an African proverb, actually.
Okay, well, regardless, I mean, I think that there's a difference between just judging strangers and judging the people you let into your life. Because I would say that I'm not necessarily extremely selective. Like, I like talking to people.
Quick question, though. What do you consider letting into your life?
As in, let's say you see this person frequently and you are good, like decent friends with them. So not someone that you see every once in a while and you just, you know, kind of chat it up for a minute and then leave. Someone who is consistently a part of your life, like day-to-day basis. Like a close friend, pretty much.
Yeah. So, like, what are you doing with this close friend?
Anything that you would do with, like, friends.
Well, no, because it really depends. Because, like, I'd consider a lot of people friends, but I don't hang out with them every day. Even my closest friends nowadays, we don't hang out ever. Like, I don't even remember the last time we hung out because it's been so long. But I still consider them my closest friends, right? So I don't know. Because, again, for example, if you're talking about, like, your pain and stuff, if you think that people are going to exploit you over that, so you have to be careful, I think, again, if you have nothing to fear inside, then the other people aren't going to be a factor.
True,
You know what I
true.
mean?
I guess that's a very valid point, and I think that at the end of the day, if you are very solid, everything outside it becomes much less powerful, which I agree with. But I still think that for the average person, it's not easy to simply overlook all judgment, because I guarantee you, once we upload this video and say don't judge people,
people would judge us for uploading the video.
precisely.
And I say that judgment is absolutely it is not, you cannot avoid it. It's
natural.
unavoidable. The second you see somebody, and you won't even think about it, but the second that you see somebody, you judge them. Now, whether that be a good judgment or a bad judgment, an offensive judgment or a kind judgment is one thing, but judgment always happens. The question is whether you let judgment affect your actions. That's when I think that you've made a mistake. Because thought is one thing, but action is another. Thought is something that's very, very hard to control. That's why I'd say all of you read As a Man Thinketh, because it talks about, first off, the influence of your thought, because thought is the strongest thing on the planet. And secondly, how you can deal with the thoughts in your mind. Because the truth and, the main aspect of that book is explaining how your thoughts are what is the cornerstone of everything that happens in your life. So these thoughts are going to happen. The question is, can you control them and choose how you're going to act based on them?
Okay, let me ask you this. If somebody has a track record of being a bad friend, right? Now, to elaborate on what a bad friend is, let's say when you are going through something and you ask for their help, they consistently turn you down. They talk about you behind your back and spread rumors about you. Okay, let's just say that as a defining point for what a bad friend is.
Sure.
Someone has a track record of doing this. Do you think that judging them and saying they have a track record of doing this in the past, so if I let them into my life, they may do the same to me, is a fair assumption, and you deciding not to be friends with them is fair?
I think it's completely fair for a person to do that. But as much, like I'm telling you, maybe you won't believe me. Maybe people out there won't believe me. But I would try to still be friends with that person, which sounds crazy, right? But I think that these people who do bad to other people just haven't been shown what it's like to be on the receiving end of good things. A lot of the time, these people that we judge as bad, everybody does. And where does that leave them? Who does that leave them with? People make mistakes, but again, how can I sit here and talk about forgiveness if I don't choose to forgive, right? So I'm going to try every day in my life to forgive the people around me. Even for those kinds of decisions, I believe that people can change. And I'd rather be an inspiration for change than an inspiration for, I don't know, what would you call staying the same?
Stagnation?
Stagnation, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the only reason I ask is I think that if you try to be, it's literally something that Mike Tyson said. He said, if you're a friend of everybody else, you're an enemy to yourself, right? So by letting all these people into your life, it doesn't mean that they're, inherently bad people if you decide to keep them away from you, right? That doesn't mean anything. I think that being careful about who you surround yourself with is a critical point of life. You can't let everybody into your life. That's the truth. I think that it's good to help people wherever you can, but at the end of the day, if you attach too many ankle weights to yourself, it becomes hard to move on your own. And for example, if I introduce you to someone who has a crippling addiction to drugs and alcohol, right? You would obviously do your best to help them if you were previously friends with them, right? Now, obviously, I also agree that a lot of people would turn their backs on them, so it is important for us as people who want to inspire others to reach out that helping hand every once in a while. But I think that in one way or another, eventually, that person you reach your hand out to will bite or drag you down somewhere that you don't want to be. I'm not saying that you shouldn't give people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm saying if you know enough about a person to know their character, to know their track record, then I think it's fair to
see what I think is if somebody's falling, maybe I won't extend my hand, but I'll build them a ladder. I'd give them a way out that doesn't offer me. It was actually interesting because I think people take things very personally in life. So there's this one video I saw, and the video goes, whenever you send a message to your friend and you see that they're active and they don't reply, instantly you think, oh my God, this guy's got some kind of problem with me. Why is he not responding to my message? And then in the video he says, how arrogant are you to think that they deserve to give you their downtime? This person might be going through something in their life. They might be working through stuff. Why do they have to give you their time? And I really thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I guess the world doesn't really revolve around me. So sometimes when you think people are being bad friends or being bad people, I think that they're just going through things worse than you can imagine. And I'd say yes, to anybody out there, never sacrifice yourself for somebody else, which is something that I will get into a little bit later. Never sacrifice yourself for somebody else. But when you're in a good place in life, wouldn't you want to help other people come to that kind of a place too? And what I've found is that people don't need help on the way up. They need help when they're falling down, right? We always like to help the person that's on the way up because it's easy. But the hardest people to help are the ones that are falling, right? Those are the heaviest people, not the people that are already pulling themselves up, right? So if you really want to affect great change in the world and great change in people's lives, help the people who are falling because they're the people who need it the most.
Interesting. Very interesting. But still, let me ask you this, right? Don't you think that do you think it's justified for a job to turn someone away because they have a negative track record in employment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So if that is the case there, why is it wrong for someone to feel the same way?
Firstly, I don't say it's wrong, right? Because again, all of this is up to personal view. If you believe, I'm not saying you're wrong. When we discuss, especially when it comes to judgment, because I think this is a more controversial topic that we've talked about than a lot of the other things. But it's up to you. You can choose to judge people. That's your choice, right? The reason that I want to abstain from it is because, it's actually, oh my God, you know what? I can connect this to a story really well. For those of you out there who might not know, there's a show called What Would You Do? And it features the host, John Quinones.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's goated. I think Mess Yourself used to always react. Shout out to Mess Yourself. Not that he would ever watch this video, but goated YouTuber way back then.
Absolute
goat. You guys should watch his videos on What Would You Do? Because it's very, very funny videos. But in one of the videos, it's basically like these social situations where they put people in situations and see what they would do. So in this one situation, they have like a couple actors. They go up to the till, and it's this lady trying to buy a toy for her kid. But she's too poor. She doesn't have enough money. So then she's like, oh, I'm a couple dollars short. Maybe we could get something else. And then a man walks up behind, and most people didn't do anything. But one time, this guy walks up. He's got like 3 kids of his own in the toy store. But he walks up, throws his credit card down on the table. Doesn't even ask how much. Maybe he's rich. He's probably rich. But he throws his credit card down. He's like, it's okay. I got it. And they all ask him, they're like, oh, why'd you help her? Why'd you help her? And he said, John, the host, is like, a lot of the time these are scammers, right? Why were you so, non-hesitant to just throw it on your card? And what he said is, 9 times out of 10, this person's a scammer. But that 1 time out of 10 that they're not, I'd want to help that person. If you assume 100% of the time that these people have bad intentions, you help nobody. But if you assume 100% of the time that they do, you help someone. Right? And as a guy who really wants to help people, I'm going to do what it takes, right? And if I make a bad decision, I make one. But I'm not going to not help somebody because I couldn't make a decision or because I turned them away.
Interesting. Well, I think that this is one of the times where we're not going to perfectly agree on something.
Absolutely.
100%. And that's going to happen, right? At the end of the day, you can have diametrically opposing views on something.
We're different people, man.
Yeah. God, you know what? This is something I was just thinking about. The other day we were talking about this. The presidential debate these days, and how it used to be a
Super
respectful,
yeah.
conversation amongst people who disagree. Now it's you're fat, you're ugly. I mean, I don't know. I've actually never watched. I didn't watch the recent one.
I feel like they definitely try to present facts, but it's so much more disrespectful than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be like, oh, this is such an esteemed gentleman over here presenting a great policy, but mine is better for XXX. And now it's just
Yeah, which is honestly disappointing. But I think that's a micro lesson for you guys in this episode. Don't be the guy that takes everything personally. You're not going to agree with everybody, okay? Just learn to walk away from conversations and learn also to just try to understand the other person. You were saying you were going to say something?
I thought about a quote, but I can't remember it. So
okay, well, I mean, we just spent a lot of time talking about the pros, or I'd say debating over the pros of being judgmental. No, not being judgmental, having judgment of other people. Is that just the same thing?
The same thing, dude.
Okay, well, the pros of judging. Okay, let's just say that. But now let's talk about the cons, okay? At the end of the day, judgment can lead you away from a lot of good opportunities to make friends and meet people, okay? Why are you looking at me like that?
1 time out of 10, that's what I said.
True, the 1 time out of 10, but is it worth getting stabbed 9 times to have one friend?
Perchance.
That's crazy to me.
Maybe, man. If you got some strong armor, then no need to worry about the knives, right?
I guess. True. That's a fair point.
But yeah,
regardless, point is you could lead yourself astray from a lot of opportunities in life. At the end of the day, if you give somebody the benefit of the doubt, they could show you a side of them that you wouldn't have expected, right? I found this really critical when in university. People are always trying to make friends in school because they don't have a lot of connections going into it. So when you go into university and you talk to people, you're going to meet a lot of people that don't have the same views as you.
Yeah.
So when you do that, like you mentioned earlier about your story, you need to keep an open mind and refrain from judging them because that could cause you to walk away from the conversation before they talk about something that you're interested in. For example, I've been paired up with a lot of people in labs in previous times. And in the last couple semesters, I had really, really good lab partners because I had a conversation with them. And even if they said something I disagreed with, I still just stuck it out for a bit and said, you know what, let me give him or her the benefit of the doubt and hear what they have to say. And then bang, we found something that we both connect on. And then from there, we became good friends to this day. So that happens with a lot of people in school and in life if you give them the chance to show you their true colors. But if you stop at the surface level judgment of what they look like or one of their opinions, immediately you cut yourself off from a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's just not giving people a chance, right? And I think it's interesting because, as I said before, I think that we're being pushed to become more judgmental in the world. With a lot of the division that's happening amongst like race or political views, I find that really stupid. Like, people are denying the ability to make friends with others because of their political views. But sometimes I think about it and I'm like, some people are like, oh, I'm liberal and you're Republican or conservative. Sorry, I always get the Canadian and the U.S. mixed up now. God, media is messing with my mind.
Wait, what? It's conservative and liberal?
Yeah, for the U.S. And then it's Republican and Democrat. Wait, no.
No, it's the other way around. Actually, no. Maybe there are two different terms.
I think they're 2 different terms.
Because I know that
we're not stupid. Trust me.
Democratic and Democrats and Republicans. Those are the 2 things in the States. I'm pretty sure.
But anyway, people will be like, "Oh, I'm this and I'm this," which means that if 2 people from opposite political views like meet each other, it's like they can't have a conversation because they're immediately like, we have to be enemies. But I question that. I'm like, who told you that you can't be friends with somebody who has an opposing political view? Because if you really think about it, how much do you really know about a person based on what political view they have? You may think you know a lot, but it's like I find myself aligning with certain views from either side, right? It's not like I'm 100% one side or I'm 100% the other side. Maybe I say I like one side more than the other, but does that define me as I am? I wouldn't go up to somebody and be like, hey man, my name's Nithik, I'm 18 years old, I'm this political view. Would you introduce yourself to somebody like that? No, because it's not an important part of your identity. It's also the same thing with race. And I know, like, I mean, obviously I wouldn't walk up to be like, hey, I'm brown, because clearly they could probably see it. But like, the point being that it's not really a cornerstone of your identity. I think that physical appearance and these superficial things people think is what makes up a person. The funny thing is, the things that you can judge about a person are never about that person. So the things that you can see and the things that you think you can use to deduce a person's character are never the things that truly shape their character. The things that truly shape their character can only be found after you converse with them, until you actually explore who that person is as a person. And also, people need to understand the idea of a facade. Most people nowadays aren't their real selves because they're afraid. They're afraid that people are going to think they're lame or they're this or they're that. So they put up some kind of fake mask to fit in with everybody. You oftentimes judge a person's fake mask and never get to be friends with the person who's behind it. And I think that's such a travesty in life because there's so many beautiful faces behind those masks, but we just never took the time to find them.
Yeah, and realistically, people started putting on masks, especially on social media, because they were afraid of judgment from others.
Exactly.
Right? The second you put something on the internet, other people are going to have opinions about it. So like you said, I guess it is true that if you have armor, the amount of people that try to stab you in the back, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to cut deep. Point is to be so strong and sure in yourself that the judgment of others doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I guess that also does mean that you should be someone who avoids judging others whenever you can.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I was really thinking about is, who is the one person that can judge anyone?
I mean, I believe people would say God.
God. Why? Why do religious people believe that God can judge them for their sins, their merit, and decide whether they go to heaven or hell?
Because he's perfect?
No. Because he saw everything in your life. He saw your full story.
Damn,
he saw your successes.
you're right.
He saw your
Yeah.
failures. He saw your sins, and he saw your good deeds. But to anybody else on this planet, they didn't see the whole story. They didn't see your
absolutely.
sins. They didn't see the times where you helped others. So being judgmental of others is very interesting because you don't know the whole story. You never will. And that's why it's not really fair for you to be able to judge others that deep, especially about their character.
Yeah, and you want to know another crazy thing about because I said because God's perfect, right? And it was because I think it's from the Bible, and I think I've said it before, but it's who am I to judge another person when I myself walk imperfectly, right? You know, we're all imperfect beings. That doesn't give you the right to judge other people's flaws.
100%.
Okay? So, and yeah, I think that you don't know everything about a person. And the truth is, that's what's funny about judgment is I don't think you ever get to know everything about somebody. Because no matter how much people share, it's never the same as what's truly in their mind.
Exactly. I was about to say that too. At the end of the day, even when somebody tells you a story about their life that you are trying to deduce, like who they are, what they did in the situation, the person telling the story is going to leave out details. They're going to, have messages in that story that didn't come across to you.
Yeah.
You'll
and
never get the full
yeah,
picture.
you might not even understand things the same way they do because we all
Exactly.
view the world differently.
Yeah.
So for you to sit here and believe that the things that you've seen about a person completely dictate who they are is completely unfair. Because if you think about it, for example, you meet a person, let's say that you're, 18. Say you're my age, okay? You meet a person, and after an hour of talking with them, even an hour is generous given today's, age of, quick conversations. But suppose you sit down and speak with a person for an hour. Many people would be like, I think this person is like this, and they would judge them. But think about the fact that you judged a person's character over 1 hour when it was probably built for well over 10 years.
Damn.
That amount of time this person has put into becoming this person. Think about how complex people are. The amount of time that especially when you get older and older and older, you have spent so much time on this planet. So much time cultivating this personality and becoming this diverse person. How is it fair for somebody to just look at you for such a short period of time and go, I know what kind of person you are. I know this about you. I know this about you. I know this about you. How is it fair? It's not fair to either of you. And especially think about the person that you're judging, about how much effort and struggles and things that they've gone through in their life to become this person. And for you to boil it down to what you think they are, it's unfair. And you're robbing them of their individuality, and you're robbing yourself of a possible friend.
Damn. That's actually a very good point, to boil down something that's been grown for so long to something so little. That's very true. And also, I was reading this story about judgment, And one thing that they said at the end of it was the people that are really spiteful in life attribute other people's successes to external factors. For example, he got lucky or he had good teammates. That's why he won. It had nothing to do with his hard work or his talent. But at the same time, these spiteful people will attribute their own failures, other people's failures to internal attributes.
Yeah.
For example, that guy is awkward because he's a loser, when in reality, he could have had a broken home. So being a spiteful person is a tragedy in and of itself because you take somebody else and reduce their accomplishments while amplifying their faults.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is wrong in every sense because you are not perfect either. What if I took you and judged your accomplishments and said you got lucky? Think about the thing that made you the most happy in life, the proudest achievement in your life, and I reduced it down to ashes by saying you got lucky. That hurts.
That's devastating.
And the thing is, people say that about everyone. Oh, LeBron couldn't have done it without who? Scottie Pippen?
Nope, that's Jordan, dude.
Oh, I meant Jordan. I meant to say Jordan. Don't worry. I'm not that, big of a buffoon.
Yeah.
Even though I don't watch basketball, I still know my teams.
LeBron and Dwayne Wade, I believe, and Chris Bosh. That's the trio. Or so
Okay.
I've been told. But
Well,
yeah,
I was talking about Michael Jordan because I just watched the first episode of Last Dance. I know I'm super, super late on this,
Man, I should
but
probably watch it too.
I figured that I should watch it. So I did. And, it would be like saying that Jordan only won his rings because he had good teammates or because he had good management on his team. No, of course not. Jordan was a great player through and through.
I feel like if I were to really flip it, I would say the only people saying that the only reason that Scottie Pippen has any rings is because of Jordan, right?
That's also true.
Because yes, obviously you have arguably the greatest basketball player of all time on your team. It's going to help you a lot. But without him, he's still put in effort to make those wins happen, right?
Okay,
So-
just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, who's the best basketball player ever?
Man, I mean, all the numbers except championships, I believe, say LeBron. But
When you think basketball, who's the greatest
well,
player?
yeah, I know. Everybody thinks about Jordan, but I guess as time goes on, I think it'll become LeBron because, I mean, again, you have to think about the influence that Jordan had with the entire. This guy's shoes are the biggest shoe brand ever. I think you see people wearing Jordans more than any other shoe. So I would say he's got to have some of the greatest influence. But again, we're not basketball people, so we don't know too much about it.
True, but as I watched the first episode of the documentary, seeing people line up outside stadiums just to get a glimpse of Michael Jordan, he has the same energy as Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say as notorious solely because nobody's topping.
Yeah,
They're
Michael-
both MJs.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That is very crazy.
I swear, Michael Jackson apparently he had 4.8 billion fans when the population was 5 billion or 6 billion or something.
What?
Like that. But that doesn't make any sense. I'm
You
telling
know what
that-
I just
that
realized?
statistic
Michael
cannot
is the
be true.
name of some of the most prolific people in human history.
I mean, if you can.
Michael Jackson,
Yeah. Michael Jordan.
Michael Phelps.
Michael Langelo.
Oh,
The sculptor and the
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
I mean, is Mike Tyson count as Michael?
I'll count it. Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski. Michael Myers.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, Michael is just a crazy name. I'm telling you, there's a lot more that I didn't even think
Michael's, the store, Michael's.
of. Okay, now you're taking it in
Maybe
the wrong
we might
direction.
be taking it too far.
Okay,
But-
the only reason I asked you that is because I don't know. I just think that Jordan has a certain energy about him that
Yeah,
made
that's
him...
true. I mean, people did call him Black Jesus. So,
What?
yeah.
I did not know
I
that.
believe people called him Black Jesus.
That's crazy.
Yeah, people are seeing him on the court was seeing Jesus.
Huh.
I'm pretty sure people said that. I mean, okay, once you hear the statements from people that played with, but again, people say that about LeBron. Giannis, he was you can't guard LeBron. And Giannis is 6'9" or something like that. And
He's that tall,
I mean,
dude.
I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, he is
and he's
actually
an
really
athletic
tall.
freak. Also, if you think about it, people in the NBA are crazy.
Mhm.
This, considering that Stephen Curry, for example, is considered short, and he's 6'2" or 6'3".
He's 6'2"?
Or 6'3".
He looks so small in the court.
Right?
Oh my
It's
god,
crazy.
That's
that's
terrifying.
another thing about judgment. You ain't even got all the information, and in perspective, things look different, right? Stephen Curry looks short compared to everybody else because everybody else is a flipping giant. But if you really think about it, you put Stephen Curry in a room full of kindergartners, he's gonna look like a flipping giant, right?
Well, actually, if you just put Steph Curry in a room with a bunch of average size
yeah,
people,
exactly.
he still looks
right.
pretty tall.
So again, it's also a perspective thing. So people will look at you when you're around greats and say that you don't deserve to be there. But they never look at you when you're around in, the bottom places. The bottom places. When you're in the mud and saying you didn't belong there either.
True.
Right?
True.
So people will always look for a way to pull you down. That's reality. But that's why you need to be more conscious of what you do with your life. Because sometimes you can't control other people's judgments, but you can control your own.
True. Right? True. Well, the way I see it is judgment is bad in the sense that it drives you away from people. But I think that if you can learn to analyze data with an objective set of eyes, that is a good way to live life. Because you and I might not agree on it, but I still think that you should be able to discern people's character. It doesn't mean that you should be critical of them, but at the end of the day, you're going to make assumptions and judgments regardless.
Oh, actually, I just want to say one more quote.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just about what I was saying. This was a quote I saw, and it said, "No matter how good you are, people will treat you according to their moods and needs, and it is your fault if you let that affect you."
That just brought me to another quote by David Goggins that we've definitely said before. If I started walking on water, people would say it's because I can't swim.
Damn.
So
wait, he said that?
Yeah.
We have never said that
Bro,
on the podcast. That
is a hard quote. He literally said because people will always judge you
for what you can't do.
Regardless of how extraordinary your achievement is, they will look for some flaw.
Yeah.
So the point is, you be so sure in yourself that doesn't get to you.
Absolutely.
Like you said, even if I walked on water, people would say it's because I can't swim.
That's a tough quote,
right?
That's a good quote. One more thing I did want to also talk about was back on the topic when I was talking about judging people and how sometimes you think that a person doesn't have a great character, but it's a quote I see everywhere. But I really take it to heart, and I suggest that all of you do when it comes to when you go about your life and you look around and you see so many people. Every single day you see tons of people. Unless you're holed up in your house doing nothing, you see a lot of people every day. I see tons of people every day, right? And this quote really got me thinking. And the quote is, you don't have to be the best person. You just have to be a person who's trying to be better. And I realized that, yes, there's a ton. Everybody I see around me is imperfect. Hell, when I look in the mirror, I see imperfection. But I'm trying to be better. And I wonder how many people are also trying. And those people don't get recognition for trying. The reason that many people get discouraged about anything is because they don't get any recognition or they don't see any results, right? So, for example, take, the gym. That's the biggest example is after one workout, you might get pumped up, but man, the next day you're going to be back to basically looking how you look like yesterday, right? You don't change like that. It ain't like that. It's a long process. But think about when you feel the happiest in the gym. It's when that big guy comes over and says, "Hey man, looking big." Because somebody appreciates you almost. Or makes you realize that, hey, man, I'm making progress. So for me, when I try to be a good person, I think that there's a lot of people out there who are trying to be better as well. And a lot of the times, they came from I came from a perfect midpoint and now I'm going up. A lot of these people might have started way back here. They might have been through things that I'd never been through. So they might still be behind where I was when I started, but that doesn't mean that they're not as far back as they used to be, right? They're trying to be better. So if I could acknowledge that person and be like, "Hey, man, you know what? I like your energy. I like your vibe." They'll be like, "Damn, I'm getting better," right? And that'll encourage them to keep going. But if you constantly are like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to this guy because I don't like what he's like. I don't like what he's like." That's not my kind of vibe. And I get trying to keep away from people that you think will be a bad influence. But once you learn to master yourself, help others. Be the guy that dishes out a compliment for no reason. Have you seen, I don't know his name. It's this guy on Instagram. He's like the most social person I ever met in my entire life. Or I've never met him, but
who is he? Give me a description.
I've never seen his face. He has basically it's just a camera either attached to his head or like his chest. You never see his face in his videos. But he just walks around and he teaches how to be social. He says hi to every single person he sees on the street. Gives a compliment to every single person he sees on the street. Calls every girl he sees on the street cute in a nice way. So he's a very respected individual. But he has conversations with everybody. And he's like, "Guys, I'm telling you, you don't need to be socially anxious. There's nothing to be afraid of. Most people are out there to meet you." So he just walks out and he's like, "Hey, man, have a good day. Oh, I really like your outfit." Or, "Oh, I really like your earrings. Oh, my God, have a great day. Nice dog, you know? He's always handing out just compliments. And he's a big inspiration for me because I want to eventually be that kind of a guy who's just happy and has a positive impact on everybody else around him. But, oh man, what was my main point in all this? My main point is that if you can be that person, you can help other people. Mm-hmm. You can lift up other people. So by avoiding the actions of judgment, you can lift people up and encourage them to be better, to be more like you, right? And it's kind of just that domino effect of being a good person and having positive influence on everybody else is eventually going to just spiral into more positivity in the world, you know?
Yeah, 100%. But as I was saying, the thought of judgment is you don't want to judge too quick, but you also don't want to be ignorant of somebody's qualities. So the way I see it is you can critically think. That is the term I would use for it, not judgment, because there is actually a psychological term for what we use to describe how people experience things. So it's called attribution theory, okay? And pretty much what it is a theory that describes how we or why we believe certain things happen, okay? And we attribute them to either external or internal causes. And that's what I was talking about earlier, how when somebody's successful, a spiteful person would say that that was completely result of external qualities, not their own hard work. But if we take a second to analyze somebody's behavior, we can learn more about them by understanding where did this come from, right? And if you don't know, don't judge. That's the critical thing. For example, let's say you're sitting in a meeting at your corporate job and Nancy rolls in 20 minutes late to work. You roll your eyes and you say, God, Nancy really doesn't care about her damn job. She's sitting here being lazy, disorganized, and not showing up on time. When in reality, there was an accident on the highway and she got stuck. You don't know what really happened. So you attributed something that was external to her own internal qualities. That's wrong. Shouldn't be doing that. But the problem is learning to attribute something accurately is difficult. It's not really easy because you don't know the whole story, right? That's why we say avoid judgment at all costs. But the other thing is you can't assume everything is external as well. For example, let's say a kid bullies someone. That's a very textbook example. A lot of the times people like to say, oh, maybe he came from a broken home, or maybe he had some sort of suffering that led him to be that way. Sure, that may be the case, but it could also be that he's on a power trip, that he's a character who thrives on seeing other people suffer. I don't think that that's a common characteristic at all. I believe that most people are out there trying to do what's best for the world. But there are a few bad apples at the end of the day. So understanding that you don't really know what is internal and what's external is critical. You don't know what to attribute it to. So avoid judging people when you can, but also learn when to judge people. Not learn when to judge people. I'll say learn when to think about someone's behavior and see what the pattern of expression is.
I'd say to recognize it so that it doesn't harm you.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's what I'm
Because if you can see that, hey, this guy's got a pattern of bullying everybody, if he picks on me, it's not because of me, it's because of him, right? People do wrong things for themselves all the time. That's the big problem is you can't let it affect you. You can't let it get to you. People are going to do bad things. That's a part of life. Even the people you love are going to hurt you, right? But the question is, can you still stand tall and proud of who you are? Can you keep smiling even though other people don't like you? That's a hard thing that people grapple with because most of us have a need to be liked. Most of us really want to be liked. Who doesn't want to be liked at the end of the day? Who really wants to be hated by everybody? Not many people. So you need to understand that in this world, there are going to be people that do wrong. There are going to be people that hurt you. But the question is, are you going to let it get to you? Because at the end of the day, 90% of these problems, obviously, if somebody punches you, it's going to hurt you, okay? Yeah. I'm not saying you're invincible, all right? But my point is when it comes, especially with these emotional and spiritual and relationship style issues, it's up to you. If you are reinforced and strong in who you are, you have nothing to fear, right? And that's when you can start going out to help people. But one thing I've learned is people change when they want to change. And I saw this from, you guys should definitely go follow us. It's like the new, I don't know if it's new, but it's great Instagram account. It's called Opus Reality. And they post these really nice, they're about a minute long videos. Like they max out their time. So you can form a good attention span, but they make phenomenal edits and like great messages. And this is kind of like me paraphrasing something that they said in one of their videos. I just want to give credit because their page is absolutely phenomenal, and I urge every single one of you to check it out. It is amazing. But the little paraphrase that I've done here is people change when they want to change. You cannot force them. No amount of nagging will fix your partner's annoying habits. No amount of explaining will fix your friend's destructive tendencies. And your parents will be rooted in their ways no matter how much you argue. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The most meaningful change is that which comes from within. The more time you spend trying to fix others could be better spent fixing yourself. Be there for other people. It's necessary. If you want to be a good person, be there for other people. But understand that being there doesn't mean pulling them along. The truth is, it's funny because we all know this, that the only time we change is when we want to. But it's that people around us make us want to change. When you see an inspiration, when you see David Goggins, what do you want to do? You want to go for a run. Why? Because David Goggins makes you want to be like him. It makes you want to change, right? It's even if you take the old adage of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's something Prince EA said. He said, you can't make it drink, but you can put salt in the horse's hay to make it thirsty, right? To make them want to change. You can't force them, but you can make somebody want to change. So I'd say, as a person, it's not your duty, but you can try to be a role model. Be an inspiration for change. If I can go about my day and show somebody that, hey man, this path is real nice, that this flowery garden I'm walking through brings a smile to my face, then maybe I can urge them to walk off the path of thorns. But if they choose to keep walking, that's up to them. I'll still be on my path, shining a flashlight towards them, saying, hey man, you ever want to hop over, I'm here. But you can't pull them along, right? In the end, it's up to people to change, because the most meaningful change is the one that comes from within. So don't think that just because somebody isn't listening to your advice that they don't like you, or that they're a bad person, or that they're stupid. Because we all do that. We're always like, oh my God, why does my friend keep doing this dumb thing? Mm-hmm. Why does he keep doing this thing when we all tell him not to? It's because he's not ready yet. Because he hasn't been taught yet why it's wrong. True. Because maybe all logic points him towards doing the opposite thing, but he still does it. Why does he keep running back to his ex? Why does he keep, hanging out with these people? Why does he keep doing this and that and this and that? The truth is, maybe it doesn't make sense to you, but it does for them right now. But in due time, if you keep walking your path and you keep smiling, one day you can just hope that they're going to walk and smile with you. But don't sit there and judge them and be like, oh, well, they don't want my help, I'm going to walk away. No, be there. But just be there when they need you. When they don't need you, just walk your own path, man. Mind your business.
It's hard, though, because I'd say that most people are this concerned about somebody else's behavior because they care. Oftentimes, it comes from a place of love rather than anger or malice.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we all care about our friends. We all care about the people that we're in relationships with. So when you say, oh, do this, like, why are you making this mistake over and over and over again? Obviously, it's because you care. But at the same time, although your intention may be good, the outcome may not be what you want.
It's the impact.
Exactly.
Remember, not the intention. You may believe everything you're doing to be just, but if the other person doesn't see it that way, then it isn't that way.
Yeah. 100%.
That's what I've realized. It was a question I had, and maybe I'd pose it to you. But what do you do when you're constantly trying to help somebody and you believe that everything you're doing is great, but they still don't appreciate you? Because even I don't have the answer to this question, and I thought about it.
I would say that there are two approaches to it. And it depends on the rest of your experience with this person. Let's say it's in a relationship. Let's say they are unappreciative of certain qualities of you, but they're very loving when you're together, and they make you feel special in all other ways. But this one quality is lacking. If that was the case, I would say maybe it's something that will grow and you can help them nurture it. That aspect of them could get better. At the end of the day, when you get into a relationship with someone, nobody is perfect, right? Judging somebody based on their flaws is exactly how you end relationships, not how you start them. So you also have qualities that are imperfect. So in that sense, if this person doesn't show you appreciation, maybe it's something they don't really understand how to do because they grew up in a different way, right? So that's one thing that you should be wary of. But on the other hand, I wouldn't want to sit around and be taken advantage of and used for the kind of person that I am without them showing any form of reciprocation. In the sense that if I'm constantly there for you, right? If I reach out a hand and say, hey, can you help me out on this? And you immediately turn me away, or you're extremely disrespectful all the time, then I would say go where you're valued, right? There's always that analogy that water at home is free, but water at the movies theater is like $7. On a plane, it's $10, whatever. Like, you get the point.
Oh, yeah, the value is different.
Value is different based on where it is. So at the end of the day, I think that going where you're valued is important. But also, if there's only one thing wrong with this person, then maybe it's just something they got to work on. So don't judge them too hard on that.
Absolutely.
And one big aspect of this whole judgment thing that you can improve on is differentiating between the two kinds of judgment. I didn't actually know this. It makes sense, but I didn't really know that there was a proper theory prescribed to it. And it was devised by Daniel Kahneman, okay? And it pretty much breaks it into two sections, type 1 and type 2 thinking. Type 1 is instant, unconscious, and fast, and automatic, okay? So you don't really have any thought in this. Type 2 is more of a conscious decision. It occurs over time, and it is deliberate. You thought about it. So when I see you for the first time, I am going to judge you based on certain things, right? For example, take that time that we walked into a store, right? We walk into this store, and we immediately got judged based on the clothes that we were wearing, even though they weren't really anything crazy. I was literally wearing shorts and a t-shirt that I wore to the gym the day before, right? But this person profiled me as a certain kind of character. If you were to do the same, that is type 1 thinking. I would say in 99% of situations, type 1 thinking is inaccurate and wrong.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, you can use it in very, very specific scenarios to help you. But 99% of the time, it is wrong, and you will come up with a very inaccurate estimate of that person's character. But if you instead opt for type 2 thinking, where you give yourself time to analyze, give yourself time to actually experience what kind of person they are, and learn more about them, most of the time you'll come to find out, hey, this person is a lot cooler than I thought they were at first. Because that one thing that I was going to get mad about is the one flaw out of 100 good things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a surface level. Right?
Exactly, right? There's no point in analyzing over that. And the reason why this episode has been so subjective and kind of bouncing all over the place in terms of judgment and whether it's good, whether it's bad, is because I think that, like I said at the very beginning of this episode, all advice is subjective. People will look at this video, and I'll say they'll take it two ways. They'll either go, that makes a lot of sense. I shouldn't judge people. Or they'll go, that's stupid. You should always judge people so that you can know who's good to surround yourself with. There's going to be situations that call for both. It's up to you to decide when you should use it. When should you be a kind-hearted person who is clearly abstaining from judgment so that they can give the person the benefit of the doubt? Or when should you be slightly harder on them and understand that, hey, clearly they're not somebody who's changing this certain behavior regardless of how many times I've asked them to? There are circumstances that call for both. So use your head. Not like one bit of advice is not going to apply to every situation. Absolutely. Right? You need to learn when to use either.
And also, I'd say, just to end this off, I want to leave you guys with a little tidbit. And it's that don't be afraid of other people's judgment as well. Because regardless of whether you choose to judge people or not, other people are going to judge you. But don't put up a fake face so that people judge you so you're like a nice person. Or, well, no. I don't want to say a nice person, but that you're a type of person that you really aren't. Because I think that that's manipulation. Right? Kindness without honesty is manipulation. So if you're being a type of person to somebody and that's not really who you are, then I think that you're robbing them of a true experience and yourself. And remember, this is another quote that I heard. And the quote is, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. Do you want me to repeat it?
Say it again.
Okay. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Damn, right? Okay.
Be yourself, man, because the people around you who really matter and really care about you aren't going to mind that. You know, the people who do, who cares about them, right? That's up to them to judge you, and, you know, they just lost the opportunity to make a great friend. But be your own person, say what you feel, be honest, and most of all, don't be judgmental. But I know that sounded like a conclusion because I'm deceiving you guys, because it's time for quote
Of
the
week.
hit 'em.
Quote of the week. Judging people is like a tasty poison. Tasty in the sense that it gives you a feeling of superiority over them, but poisonous in the sense that it disconnects you from them.
Damn.
And this is a quote from Nick Fortino, and I think he has a PhD in psychology, and he uploaded a YouTube video talking about the negativity involved with judging people. And that's also where I got the analogy of attributing their successes to external factors and their failures to internal factors. So if you want a greater understanding, I'll link that video in the description of this one. Point is, when you judge people, you take away a lot of opportunity from yourself. And more importantly, you make a lot of assumptions about someone without knowing their story. So I'd say the take-home message from this episode is, don't judge people. You don't know what they've been through, and they don't know what you've been through. So live your life with kindness and compassion, and treat people with respect, regardless of what you see.
Absolutely. Remember that a lot of time has gone into cultivating one's character, and to judge it off an extremely short period of time isn't fair. But in the end, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end of episode 38 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. We really appreciate you guys more than you can imagine. But remember to go out there. Don't be judgmental. Be caring and kind, compassionate to all around you, and, accept people for who they are and make wise decisions in your life. But most importantly, make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.